Over the last few years, Jumpstart has been working closely with startups and studying the ecosystem to understand reasons for failures. Sanjay and Girish have been striving to find answers and ideas to improve their success rate. Today, India's startup sector is in complete disarray due to the disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. With 9 in 10 startups registering a decline in revenues and a little over one-third halting operations temporarily or permanently. The worst hit segments are near early and mid-stage businesses, especially in the business to consumer space. Even at our incubator, we have been hit quite hardly. Times are challenging and every business is compelled to innovate in all areas. It's important for businesses to create operating models that would not only sustain during these COVID times, but also excel in future, utilizing this particular opportunity. So today's webinar will provide you those insights and strategic directions that startups and entrepreneurs can adopt. So before we begin the session, I would like to introduce our speakers. Girish Batra is a seasoned business professional, has spent over 2 decades in managing P&L, sales, marketing, and operations for reputed enterprises. Girish is a highly energetic leadership coach and a trained design thinker, a startup cultivator, and an entrepreneur. He's also authored a book, Experiments in Leadership. He's an engineering graduate from Mumbai University and with an MBA from NMIMS Mumbai. Now about our other speaker, Sanjay Shukla. He is an accomplished business leader with 30 years of international experience across 5 continents. He has worked with and advised Fortune 100 companies. Sanjay is an angel investor, mentors startups, a charter member of TIE. He's also a regular panelist at startup events. Sanjay takes keen interest in tech, growth strategies, and center of excellence. He's an MBA from U21 Global Singapore and an MTech from IIT Kanpur. GINSERV and Jumpstart have come together to create a series of knowledge sessions and workshops for the benefit of our startups and entrepreneurs. We'll be announcing these from time to time, so please stay tuned for more. Today's session will be for 1 hour. At the end of the session, we will do a Q&A for 15 minutes. During the session, we will stay muted for everyone's benefit, and we will allow the audio for Q&A later for participants. As promised in our communication earlier, we will be sharing the survey report through email once the event is done. As a special gesture, Girish and Sanjay have agreed for one-on-one mentoring, and those who are keen to avail this great opportunity, please feel free to comment in your chat window. We will make note of it, or you can drop a line at connect@ginserv.in. I'll repeat, connect@ginserv.in, and you can mention that you would like to avail one-on-one session with Girish and Sanjay. We'll be happy to facilitate it. Hope you will get the answers that you are looking for in today's session. Without further ado, the screen is all yours, Sanjay and Girish. Thank you.
Thank you, Girish and GINSERV, I think, for providing us this opportunity. We'll go through these slides in more from the startup perspective. And before I just start that, I would just like to just set the stage. So all of us know COVID-19 has been a kind of a major disrupting effect, not only for us, but the whole world kind of thing. And it has hit us in a way that no other crisis has ever hit us before. And this has broken the global into pieces again, stalled the economic growth, and forced citizens into the almost virtual house arrest, and forcing them to rethink their design for the development. We had some assumptions for development, but now that is changing. So over a period of next 45 minutes to 1 hour, we will explore those questions more from the startup perspective. Is new normal is immediately has come, or is going to take some more time? If new normal is going to take more time, how startups should navigate their strategies? So those are the questions which we'll try to answer over next 45 minutes. I don't know why my slides are not going. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So Girish mentioned about Jumpstart, so I will not take much time on this. So we are into strategic business consulting specifically for startup, and what we believe that startup failure rate is quite high, and then we can improve the success rate of startups. 9 out of 10 startup fails, and our belief is that startup is fail primarily because of more of a trial and error, and they don't use the resources effectively. And strategy is that backbone to help the resource to be utilized effectively, and that's where kind of we come in to build that strategy, and then we have a various business model for that. And one of them we call ourselves as a how we are venture capitalists, we call as a venture strategist and project manager. So we not only advise on the strategy perspective, we also handle and execute also, to ensure that we are kind of a virtual co-founder to make sure that you get benefit of the strategy also. Again, I think Girish has mentioned about this, so I will not go much to this. We have 3 partners. So Sumit is not able to join today. He comes with a lot of strategy background, and Girish comes with a lot of operations leadership, and then I come more from investment management and technology background. No? And all 3 of us are engineer plus MBA. No? Okay. So let's go to the core of our today's presentation. So current environment is highly uncertain. So what we will, the whole discussion is based on our report, which I think we'll be sharing the full report. It's about 40-page report, and quite in-depth analysis which we have done it. Of course, predicting the future is going to be a tricky, but we have kind of put our neck out, and then based on the data what is available, we have kind of done a little bit of prediction also. So we have analyzed the insights from the surveys which we have done, from the other resources which we have used it, and then insights from the medical journal and other things also we have tried to put it. The one thing which we have tried to do is that it is more focused on from the startup perspective. There are many surveys which like do more from the founders survey, startup founder surveys. We took slightly different route. We did the startup founder survey also, but along with that, we also wanted to focus on the consumer side or demand side also. So we also did the survey around that also on the consumer side with business leader and the youth and other people. So I will go more into detail about that when we do a survey insight, and then what we found out from those group of the people also. Okay, so if you look at and then maybe I should mention here that the data is here from the mid-April to mid-May. Towards I think April we started finding that COVID is not going to go soon and is going to have major impact. So that's when we started, and we kind of concluded by middle of May kind of thing. When we say insight from startup survey, this we have spoken to startup founders. Primarily, I think these founders, we have about 60 responses. So mainly founders for the startup which are looking for initial scale. So that means they have POC is already there, maybe paid or unpaid POC. Initial customer adoption is there, and maybe the revenue is between 0 to few crores. 0 if POC is unpaid kind of thing, correct? So that's what the people whom we have taken this survey from. So out of that, around 70% expected that recovery will be in about a year. So that's kind of, if we do it less than 6 months and 6 to 12 months, 70% expected the market will recover in about a year. 54% expected that COVID will bring the new opportunities, and we will be discussing in later about what kind of opportunities which we are seeing or what we are recommending, which startup can look into it. So there are more than half of the population feel that there's going to be some few new opportunities will emerge in the COVID after COVID, no? Okay, so this is like how much cash I have kind of thing, and what is my sustenance, no? So if you look at it greater than 18 months, the sustenance is, I think that confidence level has gone down significantly from 46% to roughly about 33%, so about 14% drop. So people are feeling that they will not have the cash enough for sustaining them for greater than 18 months. Uh, and then if you look at some of those, I think it's spill over to 6 to 12 months kind of thing. Less than 6 months and 12 to 18 months, I think roughly is the same, but there is a significant long-term impact which startup is founders were feeling that they are not confident that they will have enough cash. And that's one of the things which um, typically startup always has a cash as a challenge, and we call cash is a king. But in current times, maybe cash is more than a king, or more is like an emperor kind of a thing. So surviving during this time till the new normal establishes, I think that's going to be critical for startup, and the cash is one of that key component which startup founder has to make sure that they need to keep a watchful eye on that. No. Now, out of this, then just my screen, I will move it out. Okay, so if we look at it, founders, whether they're saying customer need will change due to COVID or not, and there is across all the parameters, they are saying that there's going to be huge changes there. Obviously, 77%, that is almost roughly more than 3/4, are saying that customer needs, buying, and consumer behavior will change, and it's a significant. That means from the startup perspective, whatever the value proposition which you had brought it in a pre-COVID era, and you thought this is going to be a customer change, and if 3/4 the founders are saying that customer behavior is going to change, I think somewhere you need to look at your value proposition, correct? That is it really still valid for me or not, or is still valid for more than me, valid for the market or not? No, is customer looking for the same thing or not? That's what finding from this survey. 62.2% says that we need to update or rebuild the value proposition, and then obviously around 54% are saying that I need to change my business model. So I think all in all, if you look at it, all three put together, there is going to be a significant change in a strategy for the startup to evaluate themselves first, and then look at it what is it going to be in the new normal. And in subsequent slides, we will give some pointers and framework around that how you can navigate through this new framework, and how you can work on yourself about around that framework. No. And this is if from the students, householder, and workforce. It's from the consumer side. This survey is. So we spoke to about 100 plus students, and with householder and workforce. No, so students were more about the survey, but household and workforce, we did an in-depth interview with them, about 15 to 30 minutes more of informal chit-chatting, and asking them about what do they see, how do they see COVID is impacting them. And there are roughly about 40 people we spoke to them, and they are from various domains and various level of experience. People were there, so that was from interview, and students were from survey. So this is more from youth survey, or we call it students whom we spoke about it. So, and it also shows us that how things are going to change, what consumer also feels, how things are going to change for them. No? So if you look at from the highest to lowest, so highest is the youth is feeling that they don't have much control over the world, kind of thing. Maybe if you would ask pre-COVID era, this number would have been significantly different. So I think there is somewhere they are feeling that what they feel earlier, that everything is under the control, and they have a bright career, because most of these students whom we asked, they were in very, very good institutes doing MBA and professional courses. So they would have felt that they are under control. Now, I think after COVID, that has gone down significantly. So existing worldview is broken, choices and priority has been wrong. So I think this is somewhere there is a feeling that maybe what priorities they had, maybe they need to change those priorities. Other two are at 15% is we consume unnecessary and unsustainability. So again, this is from the consumption side, and maybe consumption needs to be taper off kind of thing. And the most positive part about this is that uh, I think that we have rediscovered kind of a time of uh, joy at home, engage with family, self time. Probably these all those things youth were not that keen in earlier pre-COVID era, but now I think in post-COVID they had no choice, and somewhere they have rediscovered that also. I think there is also spending some time with the family and not only just driving on the laptop or on the phone also is engaging enough. So this is more from the householder and workforce. So these are the what we took the interview with them, about 40 of them. So most people expected that corona to have a long-term effects, and I think that's across the board we have seen is that right from the founders to youth to householder. So situation has forced many to become conscious of bad habits or excessive or unnecessary redundant consumption. Again, same message from the youth perspective was there that somewhere that bad habits has been, I think, kind of highlighted, and people need to relook at it. This group of people also found that joy at home is, I think, that rediscovered. And the last one is digital or virtual life has become a mainstream of work, correct? Like having this video call, or I'm sure all of you talking to your customer, or education, if you have kids, students, all of them has become more virtual and digital. And I have heard so many stories from the parents and who have kids who have got a school. So each one of them have got 3 or 4 laptops and they are working from home. Very, very different way of learning than what it was earlier. No? Earlier there was a digital or virtual life for that, but now it is more, there is no other option but just that this is the only option which is available. No? So now this was more from the survey data. So whatever data we have received, we have kind of analyzed and put our views on that. And based on that data and the survey and then other reports which we have looked at it, we kind of now divided this how the new normal is going to arrive. You know? And how long, I think the first question is how long will COVID last? If COVID is going to last for another month, I don't think we need to be worried too much about it, correct? It's like a new normal is already arrived and we need to start working towards that. But if it is going to take longer, and we have kind of for that, we looked at a lot of research report from medical world and details are in our report, what are reports we have kind of looked from medical world's perspective. So WHO and ICMR and the other reports we have looked at it. One thing which comes out is that there is not enough clarity exists on when or how pandemic may or may not end. Correct. I think this is there's a lot of confusion. Is there recurrence of the disease is also a possibility, and that is we have seen. I think countries like New Zealand, where there were 0 cases, again the recurrence happens. China, I think the same story. Correct. They have controlled it well, and suddenly they have also got some 500 or 600 active cases. So recurrence is a strong possibility. Longer it stays, more possibility of change in lifestyle for preventive measure, correct? So now mask is given. I think if I had asked all of us that in January that we will have in next 3 months, everyone would be wearing mask when you will see on the road. Still not many do it, but say 70-80%. I think we probably would have laughed it off kind of thing. But as the things are going to evolve, as it's going to get longer and longer, I think our lifestyle for the preventive measure is going to change quite a bit kind of thing. However, I think there are some optimistic research report also are there, and they are saying once we find a vaccine in 6 to 12 months, things are going to get uh, to new normal very pretty quickly. Uh, our view is that even if vaccine comes, and I think it's few candidates are there which are in phase 3 trial, uh, but just to manufacture that large quantity of vaccine, then distribute it across the corners of the India, and then uh, give it to the masses. I think that's a huge process. No, even if you take polio, 2 drops where I think the simple solution of giving 2 drops to kids were there. It has taken many years for to eradicate polio. So in our estimate, I think after looking at all those reports, we feel that COVID may stay with us for 18 to 24 months with a possibility of recurrence if things are not handled not by just government but all of us also as a public also. I think we need to have some responsibility to contain the COVID. No, now given this that if it's going to do for 18 to 24 months, so what we are saying is that it's going to take at least that much time to new normal to arrive. Now it is going to that much time. So how things are going to evolve, and that's where I think we are trying to answer that question by putting this model. We call it the 3 phases of evolution of corona situation. And just to explain you here, phase 0, I would say it has started somewhere in say February or March, and maybe it might have ended sometime in end of June kind of time frame. No, where we are kind of pinned down by corona. Lockdown was there. It was a very strict lockdown. It was imposed by the government also. At the same time, I think there was a fear factor was there. There's a voluntary lockdown also was there. So both was there, and then streets were empty. Phase 1, probably we are in phase 1, and it's going to last for another 3 to 6 months, where unlocking will start happening gradually. I think we had unlock 3 or unlock 4 was there, which got government announced last week. But here you will also see some resurgence of COVID cases, and that's what we have seen in Bangalore. I think after the unlock has happened, the COVID case has risen pretty dramatically. And probably that may be the reason why I think there is a lot of voluntary lockdown. Still, people are fearful. People are not stepping out as normal they would step out kind of thing. They step out only if it is required, or only if they have some meetings or something else need to do it from work front, or they need to go out and buy some vegetables or all this kind of thing. Otherwise, pretty much I think there is a still voluntary lockdown is there. Still the cinema halls and all are not open, so that's another indicator that there is some teething trouble is there. So we may have locking kind of thing will happen for next 3 to 6 months, depending upon how situation evolves during this period. No, then we feel that it's going to be a much more longer duration where we'll have to live with corona. The only advantage here, probably, or only differentiation here, we would have learned the best practices that, and we would be learning that how do we live with corona, and maybe vaccine started coming in, or vaccine started applying to the masses, but it's still that process has not completed, or the herd immunity has started. Correct? If they have got so many cases, then some point in time herd immunity will kick in. But that's going to take, in our viewpoint, 12 to 18 months. And the last phase is we'll be into new normal, or called new world, where effectiveness of vaccine is there, immunity is developed, and we kind of beyond corona. Now, if you look at these phases, I think uh, before we come to new normal, and what we see is that a lot of people are talking about new normal, and then a lot of people are also advising that startups should be ready for new normal. But important thing here is that if startup cannot survive till phase 3, how are they going to take opportunity for new normal? Correct? And that's where I think this phase 1, phase 2 is important. Not only important, but I think startup also needs to define their strategy, keeping in mind phase 1 and phase 2, and the dynamic nature of phase 1 and phase 2. We don't know exactly it's going to last for 3 months or 6 months. Before you start planning for phase 3, obviously you have to plan for phase 3, because that's going to be a new normal. But before you plan for phase 3, you need to plan a survival strategy for your phase 1 and phase 2. So that's what a key message from this slide is, that this slide is not from the medical perspective, or this slide is not from the how many corona cases are there. This phases we have defined exclusively keeping in mind startup and the economy, how it's going to move over the next till new normal kicks in. No. So that's, so I will, before I will hand it over to Girish from here on, and he will take us to opportunity and challenges. So Girish, over to you.
Yeah,
I will
thanks,
stop
Sanjay.
sharing. Yeah.
So folks, while I'm sharing my screen, I'll request those of you who are keen on that free strategic guidance to write to that connect@ginserv.in, or you can put your email ID in the chat, and we will get back to you with when we are able to schedule your free strategic guidance session from Jumpstart. Yeah. So thanks, Sanjay, and I'll be covering the next part of the new normal and how it is taking shape. Very important to understand that we are currently in phase 1, and as Sanjay was mentioning, we are looking at the new normal, but the new normal is not yet taking shape. We don't know what it is going to take shape in, what opportunities are really going to explode, what opportunities are going to die down, what business segments are going to die down. So it's early days to predict what the new normal would be. But still, this part of the report has really come out well, where we are saying that in phase 3, the normal would be a new one with its accepted standards of lifestyle, practices, and habits. So it will have crystallized by another 18 to 24 months after phase 2. It will have crystallized. This would be end 2021, mid 2022. That's the time when phase 3 and the new normal would have crystallized. Yeah. And businesses that survive until phase 3 will be those that have adjusted to the new environment. So as the environment is changing, businesses are adjusting by finding value propositions, business and operation models, and best practices that are fit for the new era. So it's a search and discovery while the new normal is coming to us, and those who have got the right value proposition, the right business models will be the one who will succeed. So interesting part of the report, which I thought I would share again. Now, some overview of the demand and business side, which we are seeing. We are all seeing that activities based on physical contact have significantly reduced, even though unlocking has happened completely. In fact, gyms have also started now, and but at the same time, still folks are afraid to go and expose themselves to physical contact activities. So restaurants are having very limited walk-ins. Malls are having very limited walk-ins. Even gyms are running at 10-20%, although the unlocking just started 1-2 days back. So activities based on physical contact will be constrained. In fact, Google has announced optional work from home till July 2021. So that's the kind of bandwidth Google has given to its employees to work from home, because COVID is not going anywhere soon as per them. So the corollary of that is that online and digital have gained traction. So more and more we are seeing tele-education. Our children are getting educated online. We are seeing telework. So folks who can work from home have shifted to work from home, be it CEOs, board members, or whoever's tech company employees. Whoever's able to do work from home has shifted to work from home. Telemedicine, in fact, is a new nascent category which has become. Doctors are encouraging their patients to take teleconsulting instead of physically visiting their clinics to avoid that exposure. So all this is a corollary of that low need of physical contact, and therefore online digital gaining significant traction. So edtech companies have seen their valuation go 50% up in the last 3-4 months, and they are thanking Corona for it. The third point is that conscious and thoughtful consumption with sensitivities to environment and right wrongs will replace non-essential, impulsive, compulsive, and destructive consumption. So the young generation is the one who's been shaken the most. The first time in our lifetimes, folks are not able to go down and play kids. They're not able to visit schools. So they are in fact asking their parents, what have you done to our world, which has become so unlivable that I'm not able to do my routine. So all this has led to more conscious consumption, and the impulsive, destructive consumption has gone down in the current time. And another corollary of that is that we've seen job losses, we've seen businesses being impacted. So even though cash flows are good with a few businesses, they are still conserving their resources. They are unclear about the future, and therefore they want to conserve resources as an individual or as a business and use them when there's more clarity on the future. So these are the demand side impacts which you've seen, which you shared in the report. And the business side, as you saw it in the report, a vast majority of startups have less than 12 months of runway. So unless they significantly change their cost structure or have external investments or funds coming in, they will the chances of survival are less. So that's the reality which startups have shared. And number two is that because of their conservation of cash, they've reduced their BD activity, which has led to acquiring customers becoming more challenging, because as we were sharing, customer needs have also changed. So less customers, so impacting the cash flow, and therefore again leading them to reduce their cost further. So it's a cycle they've got into in terms of managing their inflow and outflow of cash. As the survey shared, that almost 77% customers are sharing that their needs have changed significantly. So therefore, startups are relooking at their value proposition. 63% of startups are relooking at their value proposition, and 56% startups want to change their business model significantly. The Swiggy was a food delivery app. In a matter of weeks, they moved into being a grocery delivery app. So today, almost 30-40% of deliveries happening on Swiggy are grocery deliveries. So that's the business model and value proposition shift which they were forced to do in that survival game. And the startups that are adaptive enough to survive until phase 2 will be the ones to reap benefits in the long term. So as you were sharing, in the new normal, the demand would be in a new shape, but of course it will be big demand. And in phase 3, we are forecasting that there will be more demand and less supply. So it's like the time to wait for in the new normal, which is the phase 3, which is 18 to 24 months from now. So these are some of the effects observed in the market. Now, SoftBank was one of the big investors in the Indian ecosystem. They funded 88 companies globally from their vision fund, like WeWork, Koyo, Ola, Paytm. And they have forecasted that 15 of their unicorns, valued at 7,500 crores or more, might go bankrupt. That's the reality which the world is living in. A unicorn is supposed to be safe zone. The unicorns going bankrupt is a big thing, and 15 out of 88 is a big number. So as startups are trying to conserve cash, we are seeing massive layoffs across mature startups. The Swiggy has reduced 1/3 of their workforce. Ola has reduced 1/3 to 40% of their workforce. Zomato, all these startups have significantly reduced their workforce. Although they had almost 80% of their workforce of the gig economy, they were their partners. Still, they had to significantly reduce their workforce. And investors are reassessing or delaying investments. So we are seeing investors being more cautious. We refer to third-party surveys for this. And investors, 90% investors are saying they will delay investments. 65% investors are saying they will change their investment strategies and will consider industries that are positively impacted by the crisis. So there is lots of capital available if you are in the tech or tech enablement space, because that's where the future is. What was supposed to change in 3 years has changed in 3 months for edtech, medtech, digital platforms, e-commerce. So they've seen 3 years of change coming in 3 months due to COVID. So therefore, they'll attract more capital from investors. But at the same time, the investors will be much more cautious than before and will do a strategic evaluation of startups before investing. So that's the reality as far as investment goes for startups. So what are the opportunities which COVID is presenting now? Before I go into specific opportunities, I'd like to mention that the rise of a great startup happens in response to a crucial problem that affects a significant number of people. All existing startups must address themselves towards this goal and sustaining themselves and creating value for the world. And we believe there are more opportunities now which have come in which are not being addressed. Classic example being Zoom competitors, although quite a few came to do digital video conferencing, but at the same time still there is demand for more. Social media apps. So many new requirements have come in. EdTech, there are so many new requirements which have come in of invigilation of students giving exams online. So many requirements have come in, and that's the opportunity for these future startups to rise and address those opportunities. So COVID has, so this is our opportunities map, where we are saying that there'll be increased digitization. We shared that before also across different domains. Digital commerce will see positive. So brick and mortar companies are looking at having a digital version either as a subsidiary of other platforms like Amazon or Flipkart, or even creating their own e-commerce platforms for customers to interact with them and buy from them. And health tech, ed tech, sustainability startups who are looking at global warming and other such challenges will see an impetus. Cyber security, the world is getting divided and therefore cyber attacks have gone up. So therefore government and big large corporations will look at cyber security in a new way, and investment in cyber security will also go up. Insurance tech, insurance was a traditional industry. It took years to adapt from not buying insurance from an agent to buying insurance online, but that insurance buying online will see a big impetus because the agent visits to their customers have gone down significantly. So all these are the opportunities available. Opportunities in technology related to remote working. I shared how EdTech is got impetus from universities and colleges who want to do invigilation, who want to do exams online. So they're creating all these tech platforms. Even SMEs who are averse to go digital are looking at solutions for employee management, HR, production management. They're looking at better and better solutions and cheaper solutions in the digital frame. So there'll be a lot of such opportunities available. The fifth point is very interesting. Now, COVID has triggered a lot of geopolitical changes. The political and economic world order is changing, and there is growing tension between China and many nations like India, US, and Australia. So we are seeing that tension actually increasing instead of getting diffused. And therefore, India has banned some Chinese apps and also restricted Chinese pitching in government orders. So all this has given an opportunity for startups and Indian organizations to take advantage of that business. Although it's early to predict at this time, but there is no doubt that these changes will bring in more opportunities to Indian startups. So the last is the Atmanirbhar spirit. I'll tell you a story from the Japan of the 60s. So American industrialist, I visited Japan, and he was seeing a factory owner struggling with poor quality tools. And he in fact told that factory owner, boss, I'll give you these lovely American tools. Why are you buying Japanese tools which are of poor quality? Your production efficiency, your quality will go up if you use these good quality American tools. And the Japanese guy said, see, if I shift now, the tool supplier will shut down. Because I know he's making poor quality tools now, but if I keep giving him feedback and he'll improve, then in the long term, he will be a good supplier to me. So that Atmanirbhar was present in the Japan of the 60s, which was ravaged by World War II. And that led to the Japan of the 70s and 80s being a supplier to the world of electronics and automobiles. We saw how they were leaders in the American and European markets with electronics and automobiles. So that spirit is visible in spurts in India today. We are asking whenever we are buying a product, where is it made? What is the source of origin of that product? So that spirit is visible, and the government also giving an impetus. The government announced a 20 lakh crore package as a part of that Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And owing to geopolitical issues and the COVID impact on society, the Atmanirbhar spirit may take many Indian consumers in its fold. So we hope that it will take many Indian consumers in this fold. At least the sprouts are visible for the startup ecosystem and the SME ecosystem. So all these are the opportunities which are visible due to COVID. Now, we'll be sharing conceptual frameworks and approaches with startups to take advantage of these opportunities and thwart the threats to their business. So before coming to the framework, we'll share the approach. Here, the recommendation would be to apply the specific framework to your business. Don't apply a generalistic framework, although we are sharing an initial framework, but be specific and reach out to folks to find out what is the right framework to apply to your situation and your business. So the first is, in the current COVID situation, questions you ask yourself and your business are bigger than answers. So entrepreneurs must assess their specific situation thoroughly and brutally based on data and logic. This is not the time to be emotional, biased, or rigid about one's ideas and beliefs. So that's the first critical point, is just reassess your situation and not be emotional about it. Now, we shared the phases with you. As Sanjay had shared, that the phases are not in terms of number of cases, but the social economic activity, which will be constrained in phase 1. It will slightly pick up in phase 2, and it will come back close to normal or will be in its full spirits in phase 3, which is 18 to 24 months, from the mid 2021, end 2021 to mid 2022. So a startup has to plan for all these phases. And unfortunately, most of the startups are so overawed by their current crisis situation, they are not even thinking 6 months ahead or 2 years ahead. So we encourage you to think phase-wise and at least plan and check out what are the opportunities and threats and constraints for you in the phase 2 and phase 3 of your business. Yeah. Find solutions which are relevant to the Corona world. So a venture that fills critical gaps and plays a significant role in solving issues for its customers and other stakeholders in the new situation is much more likely to survive now and thrive at the right time. So just find out what are the challenges your customers are facing. Are they the same as pre-COVID or have they changed? And start solving those problems or challenges which your customers are facing. Bigger probability you will be surviving now and thriving in the future. Fourth point is don't try to fight it alone. As I was suggesting, reach out to your mentors, reach out to your investors, be transparent about your current situation, reach out to your customers. As much reach out you can do, but don't fight it alone. It's a lovely ecosystem which India has created for the startup world. Make use of that ecosystem and apply framework specific to your situation. I mentioned this point before. So we are sharing a basic framework with you in the next slide. See if it fits your situation, or you can reach out to us for specific frameworks which are relevant to your situation. Yeah. This is a basic framework that can help entrepreneurs to go beneath the surface and draw valuable insights for further planning. Most common challenges for startups are around customer acquisition and working capital. These are the two most common challenges which we've seen: customer acquisition and working capital. So here we are sharing with you, first is the demand of your value proposition. What is the demand of your value proposition? That's the first one. So identify critical constraints that affect your business. Are there any new constraints which have come in due to COVID which are affecting your business? Check worldview and wisdom from the ideas of right, wrong at overall level. So a startup approached us and they were planning to rent out high-end jewelry and ladies' purses. So it was a pre-COVID idea and they worked hard for it for 6 months and they were planning launch. And they reached out to us and we said, just check whether the timing is right, because maybe the worldview and wisdom regarding your idea has changed in the current scenario. So just check that. Be aware of what is the current worldview and wisdom, which will lead to the sensitivities and wants. So the worldview and wisdom will influence what sensitivities and wants which our current customers, both B2B and B2C, have. So worthwhile to check that. Check potential changes in habits of your buyers. It's a good time to get intimate with your customers because the customer pool would have shrunk. So good time to have regular chats with them as to where are their needs. Are they in the same style, same shape, or have they changed in the post-COVID time? No. The second part of this framework is about the business value chain. So here we are asking you to identify constraints that can disrupt your supply chain. So be your inflow of your raw material or goods or services from outside, are they stable or have they got disrupted, which will impact your production? So what is your ability to run production, which will involve both workforce and working capital? Where are you on the workforce and working capital front, and is your production streamlined in the current scenario? Are you in a position to continue and initiate critical product development activities? Actually, product launches have gone up in the COVID time by established companies, startups. In fact, they are launching a product a week. Earlier, they were launching a product a month. There was a lot of research going in, but now looking at the new shape of demand, they are addressing that by launching new products for the new demand. So that's where you have to be aware of what is your product development status quo. And the fourth point is, how will customer connect activities change? So earlier, if you were in a physical touch with your customers, when you were reaching out to them, how will that change? Will they be able to give you time to connect with them online? And how does the business development change with the new scenario? And lastly, how does COVID affect your ability to retain and deploy vital human resources? Just keep the phases also in mind. So in fact, startups who reduce 1/3 or 40% of their workforce, maybe when phase 3, the demand gets revived, they'll be struggling and hiring manpower frantically. And at that time, the right talent may not be available in the market. So just keep this in mind when you are creating this framework, keeping the phases in mind. So have this framework plotted on the phases. Yeah. So now we'll be presenting you 9 directional strategies. You can choose what fits your situation the best. So these are, each is very important for the startup world, and it has to be applied at the right time. So these are the 9 strategies which we are recommending. First is think strategy. Coming from the strategy domain sounds a little basic, but our past experience is that this has been the missing piece forcing startups to go into trial and error mode. Yeah. So even a little strategic thinking and a more thoughtful approach could greatly help the entrepreneur. The use of strategy has become much more relevant in today's changing dynamic times. Yeah, we shared the 3 phases. Keep those phases in mind when you are creating your short-term and long-term plans. All ideas from 3 to 9 would work best if applied against a phase map of your startup. So have the phase map and then apply ideas 3 to 9 for your startup. The third point is to set or reset goals. Now the goal setting activity should not merely be a revision in numbers. Business is down, so I'll reduce my target by 30% or 40%. Because the market has changed. Just imagine a tech company reducing the target by 20% because the market is down. That's what a mistake a few tech companies did. They in fact downsized before realizing that it's a positive for the COVID has been a positive for them. So just be aware of it. That is it an opportunity or where is the new opportunity lying? Instead, the entire fundamentals and dynamics are prone to reform. So the fundamentals and dynamics have reformed. So take a few steps back. Ask basic questions of what are you trying to achieve? Just go back into your startup and ask that basic question of what are you trying to achieve. So somewhere what we are suggesting is a zero-based costing or zero-based planning of your situation. Just go back to those few steps back and do a zero-based planning or costing. So broadly, our suggestion is startups should try to achieve the following: survive in phase 1, strive in phase 2, and thrive in phase 3. Unleash your full potential in phase 3, because phase 3 there will be more demand, less supply. So that's the time you can reap benefits and beat all targets possible by end 2021, mid 2022. So just ensure you're there. Survive currently, strive in phase 2, and thrive in phase 3. So that's the key goal. For that, you'll have challenges, you'll have problems. Now, one is problems look big and hairy at times. So break them into smaller parts. Break them into red, orange, and green. Red problems you will have to solve immediately. It's a life or death problem. So you look at all possible avenues to solve that problem. Orange problems, you have to solve it sometime in the future. In the next 3 to 6 month window, orange problems will need to be solved. Green problems are something you can live with. You'll solve them. You'll postpone solving them because every problem solution will need resources. So you'll postpone solving those green problems, which you can live with, and solve them when the time is right. We shared about making yourself relevant to the new world, how the world has changed. So all startups will have to make themselves relevant to this new world. We shared about being digital. All startups, whatever industry they are in, they'll have to look at how they can become more digital. And 8th point is to be ready to make tough choices. Entrepreneurs should be prepared to make tough choices based on the assessment of their situation. It may involve changing your value proposition, business model, or business plans significantly. So don't shy away from it, because it's a life and death situation, and now it's not the time to shy away from critical problems. And we are happy to share that many startups are doing this. And if you're not, please get on the track. And lastly, seek help. You may need a lot of great ideas, connections, leverages, and other kind of help to survive, strive, and thrive. There is a lot at stake, and the right help at the right time may mean the difference between success and failure. Yeah. So just reach out to folks. Girish had shared with you that we are giving this free strategic guidance session. GINSERV ecosystem is available. Reach out to all the folks around to solve your problem if you're not able to solve it yourself. Yeah. So coming to the end of my presentation, I'll be concluding my presentation with 3 key insights. The first is that startups that lack proper phase-wise strategy may not survive. So COVID is merely going to expedite the dying process of many startups which were going to fail sooner or later. They were anyway afloat by not so sustainable approaches of uneconomical traction and costly growth. the problem of economic value add was left to be solved by later IPO or late stage investors. So they left that problem to be solved later. Now it wouldn't work. Investors won't fund such negative economically value add startups. No investor would touch them. Investors would seek positive economics from day one. So earlier I could convince the investor by gross GMV. I could convince investors by hits to my website, by downloads of my app. Today's investors will not be convinced by them. They will seek positive economics. Yeah. So make yourself ready for it. And Corona is presenting new problems. We can see a lot of them. It's also presenting a lot of new opportunities which are waiting to be solved. Maybe some are below the surface with your customers. So you have to find them. So either way, that companies that adapt to the unique situation, strengthen their business fundamentals, come up with sound strategies for the long term and survive the storm in between are the ones that will be winners and role models of the post-COVID era. So who are you? Are you the role model which the post-COVID era will look at and say, see, this new startup was born now, or it adapted to the COVID situation, and it's a role model or the benchmark startup for the future? So who are you is the question I'll end my presentation with. And we are open for Q&A to answer any questions you have around our COVID report. Yeah, you can post your questions in comments, or Girish, over to you. You can lead the Q&A. You can unmute folks who have any questions, and Sanjay and I will love to answer them.
Yes, Sanjay, just, yeah, we have unmuted everyone. So please feel free to, ask your questions to Sanjay or Girish. You can even type in the question in the chat window, and I will ask them on your behalf. We have unmuted, but some of them have still muted. So
no problem. You can unmute yourself and you can ask any questions. Yeah.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, please state your name, the company, and the field that you are working in, and your question. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for sharing the feedback. Very interesting survey. This is Kaustubh again, Kaustubh Kode.
Oh,
so I'm the co-founder of Flywheel Management Services, and we are also a management consulting firm. Maybe a little bit like you. Our background is also similar to you from working in corporates. The question is, how does a traditional consulting firm like yours or ours, how do we find business in this era? Because consulting, as all of us know, is discretionary unless it's something of immediate relevance. So how do you find business in this era?
Yeah, Sanjay, I'll answer it.
Yeah, you can answer, Girish.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So see,
Yeah, Girish, just 1 minute. Maybe those who are not asking questions, they can put it. Otherwise, the background noise is coming.
Yeah, there's someone's TV or some background noise. Please kindly mute yourself.
Maybe Girish, you want to mute everyone and then again remute after the answer, no?
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Okay, I'm also muted over.
No.
Yeah, now you're okay.
Yeah. So So see, now is the time to, in fact, go closer to your customers. So if you had a set of customers before, you'll have to go back to them and find what new problems they are facing, and where are you with your solutions to solve those problems. So as we shared in the PPT also, now is the best time to come closer to your customers and understand their change needs. So they are corporates, they are startups, or it's the best time to reach out to them. And like 16 of us are on this call today. So customers are more than happy to reach out to folks, especially their previous suppliers, to share their situation. So that's the best way I would do if I were you, is to reach out to my existing past customers and understand what challenges they are facing today and what solution do I have to help them address those challenges. Yeah, make sense?
Okay. Yeah, of course, does. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a corollary to that question, but if anybody else has some other question, I would give them priority. So if there's no other question, I will come back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaustubh. Anyone else?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, this is Vagish from Cloud Grow Technology.
Yeah, Vagish.
Yeah, you mentioned about investment opportunities. You said that 90% of the investors would be looking at not investing in the near future,
Right.
and 60% of them will be looking at changing the investment strategies. So people, I mean, company like us, I was in a startup company, and we will be looking at raising some capital from the investors. So can anyone, give us some ideas? How long would it take for investors to look at any new investment opportunities, considering the current situation? So we actually wanted to launch our product. We have deferred it because of this COVID situation now. So we're looking at probably early next year to review the situation and launch our product. At the same time, we're also looking at talking to a few investors to raise some equities into a venture. So now, how to go about it, because now the investors will be reluctant to looking at any of the new investment opportunities with the current scenario. Will it take a couple of years before we see any positive response from the investors? What's your kind of idea, suggestion or advice on this one? Whether should we wait for another year or plus, or you should start launching our product next year and then maybe start talking to the investors and see whether they'll be interested to invest or exploring any new investment opportunities for our venture.
Yeah, Sanjay, you like to answer that?
Sure. So, Vagish, what is your product is all about? Maybe you can just.
It's basically it's it's about it's an environmental product. It's about water management. So we'll be launching a new innovative product into the Indian market. Actually, I'm actually sitting in Australia now, and we're planning to launch that technology, into the Indian market to water conservation, basically.
Okay.
So we believe that it can, add a good value to the end users, especially the retail customers.
Sure.
So we are looking at raising some capital from investors to actually start the production and marketing. A pan India, probably starting from a zone, different one, like zone to zone. We were actually in the verge of speaking to a few investors, but because of this COVID situation, now actually we delayed our launching our product probably 6 to 9 months.
Sure, I got it.
Yeah. What do you think will be the best?
Yeah, so Vagish, I think one thing is you made some sweeping statement which I heard it that investors are reluctant to make any investment. I don't think situation is that bad that there is no investment is happening. There is investment is happening, but obviously the process is slow. And one other thing which Girish mentioned is in his slide, last slide, in concluding slide about positive economics, correct? I think that's very critical. So without knowing a little bit more about your specific situations, where you are, what is your product value proposition, all those things, I think if we want, we can have a separate conversation on that about specific to your situation, where you are exactly. But in general, I think sustainability, water management are the areas which are going to thrive in new normal also. You need to look at your value propositions, how your value proposition is going to more aligned with the COVID situation? Is there any messaging you can do from that perspective, in COVID perspective? That's another thing which you need to think about it. I would not suggest, I think, again, this is top of my mind. So you may probably would like to, you will be knowing your situation better. So I don't know much detail, but delaying for 6 to 9 months is not going to change significantly, correct? It's just that you know that phases are there and you need to get ready for each phase. So you may want to, if once you start looking and based on the framework which Girish suggested, is there anything which you can do it in phase 1 or phase 2 instead of waiting forever kind of thing, the new normal to arrive, correct? Because that also, there is a lot of learning is going to happen for you also once you start launch your product. And for any startup, once you launch it to the market, there is a lot of new learning happens. Regarding your investment, yeah, it's a separate question, but I would keep these two things as separate unless there's a resource. You don't have resource, but obviously you can do POC and other things with minimal resources also, just to test the market. And the more you test it, more your value proposition gets clear. I think the better chances you are going to have it for your better pitch to the investors also. So to summarize, my answer is that investment climate is not as conducive as what it was there in pre-COVID era, but it is not as depressing as I think many are making out that there is no investment is happening. I think if earlier it was happening 50 or 60 for many angel investors in a year, now it is happening 40, 30 to 40 kind of thing. No? So it has reduced, but still good ideas are getting invested. So if you have a clear value propositions and since you are talking with the investors, I'm sure they'll also be giving feedback to you, but we're more than happy to discuss with you offline. No?
Yeah, thank you. The other question is even to acquire the customers, because it's going to be a kind of a B2C product. You think the current situation where a lot of people going through financial stress because of this, job losses and income losses. So we'll be looking at acquiring new customers. And do you think with this situation now, the new customers is going to be a challenge? Acquiring new customers is going to be a challenge. They may defer the decision, though they may want it because of the current situation. It's an optional product. I love to have it, but not now.
Sure.
So how do you handle it?
I think again the customer acquisition is it depends on case by case basis. So for example, if you are in healthcare or edtech, I think you will have so many customers that you may not be able to service them also, correct? There are lots of edtech companies, they are having that challenge, no? So it's definitely, I think, going to be a challenge depending upon which sector you are there. If you are, again, without knowing much about your product in terms of water and all those things, is this something can be useful for healthcare segment or education sector? Even though right now education sector has more gone into online mode or digital mode, but there could be opportunity in terms of exploring few of those areas, or maybe apartment, society. There are so many other things are there which needs to be explored. But again, that requires more in terms of customer. We have a framework and process where we go end to end from value proposition to how to do a sales pitch to customer and finding out the right message to the customer. So again, I think we can talk more about it. Girish, do you want to add anything here?
Yeah, I had only one point, Vagish, is see, instead of looking at trying to sell a product to a customer, the other way would be to find out what problem of your customer can you solve, and is that problem relevant to the customer today? If you answer these two questions for your customers, I think the lens would be more valuable. So instead of trying to sell your product or your solution to the customer, look at the problem side. What problem of your customer are you going to solve, and is that problem relevant to your customer today? Answer these two questions for finding out how big are the opportunities or small opportunities.
Yeah, but definitely, exactly. That's what we are looking at. It's a value proposition where it's a lot of intangible value. What we are looking at, offering a solution to their current problems. Now, water is becoming a major issue across the globe, and definitely India is in need of those kind of products. Therefore, we definitely looking at more than selling the product. We are trying to create a value proposition to the end users so that it will add a lot of value to their day-to-day needs, using your product. So that's what we are trying to. Definitely would love to actually catch up with you guys further to discuss further how, if you can help us out to have some strategies and launch this product to the Indian market. Happy to discuss further.
Yeah, what we will do is, I think we will post this session. I think we will reach out to Sanjay and Girish and find out their availability. And we'll facilitate a kind of a one-on-one session with you, as we have mentioned earlier. So we'll make note of your email ID. You can share your email ID in the chat box. Thank you.
Thanks, Girish. Yeah.
Thank you. Any Kaustubh, you wanted to kind of you wanted to ask add-on question? You can go ahead and or if anybody else has any other question.
Yeah. So my question was, as for most services, we are saying digital is the way ahead. So how does consulting go digital? So of course we are trying to work through digital platforms and introduce services which will have a digital element to it. But I would love to hear from you guys in terms of how does consulting go digital?
Okay. Anyway, I'll add my bit to this particular question. So Sanjay and Girish, please go ahead and.
So basically, before COVID, also I knew of a homeopathic doctor who was giving online consulting to German patients, European patients. But he was quite ahead of his time, and he was earning in euros versus rest of Indian homeopaths who were struggling to earn in rupees. So in fact, starting from because consultants are so used to being localized, they love to service their local city or local domains. But suddenly with this new era, like we've got a startup from Australia. So digital has really opened up the world. It's made the world smaller as I see it. The world is smaller now for my consulting space versus my city. So my city was my play area. Now the world is my play area. So, and we happily not multiplying by 75. When you look at the world, it's euros and dollars. So when you multiply by 75, you suddenly realize that you are maybe lower than the minimum wage there for whatever you're giving to that idea or service. So I believe digital is a big opportunity for consultants.
Right. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Interesting thing. Yes.
Kaustubh, just to add to this particular question, answer. See, in our industry, especially incubators, predominantly pre-COVID times, we're focusing on physical events, activities within their incubators. But now what's also happening is that we are launching. In fact, we will very soon be launching our own virtual incubator program. Okay. And you can consider, I mean, Sanjay and Girish are our mentors and they're on our panel. There are certain other seasoned professionals. Now what we are doing is this, that, we are bringing all our mentors and experts through these programs and reaching out to people like you. Okay. So in a similar fashion, I think, as a consulting firm, you can look at creating some of these kind of, knowledge based programs to your domains. I mean, like where your customers really, need certain value, and give them certain tools and resources. And these can be kind of driven through your website or your platform. And then, that's one way of, engaging them and, getting them to kind of staying in connect with you. The other way is to also, as Girish mentioned earlier, that it's the time to, stay relevant and stay in the communication. Okay. If we think that, customers are not really reaching out to us, but what efforts we are taking to kind of reach out to them and then, provide or just, just talk to them and understand what is their situation, what they are doing, how they are doing, what about their customers, that's where that itself will throw up a lot of answers.
Maybe I just add Kaustubh here that I think what Girish and both the Girish said is relevant. And then just from our personal experience, we have seen queries from as far as West Bengal, Darbhanga, from interior of UP, and then from there to Israel kind of thing. And then this is all happened because of COVID era and digital reach, and customers started accepting the digital. I think earlier era, it was customer were not accepting digital. They only want a consultant to be on a face-to-face basis kind of thing. Correct? They will not accept that, okay, my consultant will work for me on the TV. Same thing with respect to the doctors. Correct? Earlier, if you said that I would like to go to doctor's clinic and then only I get examined. Now I think it is more and more accepted. Even if the telemedicine is good, maybe people will prefer. Otherwise, they will get COVID and they go to hospital. Correct? So the customer's preference also has changed, and I think that probably need to look at it from the consulting perspective also.
With permission,
Right.
can I just with permission, can I just add one example here?
Yes, yes.
My name is Balakrishnan. Yeah. Okay. I mean, more or less similar to what Sanjay. Very prominent, eminent mathematics teacher who used to do for 8th, 9th, and 10th standard for the CBSE and the ICSE board. And she had only limited intake of about 40 children per section. Now after COVID and the whole thing has transformed completely for her. Now and not many people could get in. There were only about 40 people who could get in. Now, because of the whole change in the scenario from online, rather offline to online, she is able to take students from anywhere in the world today. And any student can access her and want her or reach out to her today. And she also accepted the new norm. And she has actually quadrupled her revenue. And while the time that people spend in terms of travel and other stuff has all come down, and her cost has also come down in terms of her infrastructure. Yeah, that's my bit.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, thank you, all of you. Wonderful
I
inputs.
think there are a few
and
last questions. Savitri,
yeah, I'll
any
be in
question?
touch with you. Thanks, Bala, as well.
No, I think some last questions were there for folks. A few folks unmuted. We have 5 more minutes. Any last questions? We'll have to answer them. Sham, Savitri, I saw a few people trying to ask questions. Maybe. No.
Okay. Last call.
Okay, I think then we can close it.
I think we have answered everything. So I think.
Great.
So we will conclude the session. Thank you, Sanjay and Girish, for a highly insightful session. The triggers for rethinking and pivoting how we do business are very well laid out. We can either freeze or fail, fumble or survive, or fight and grow. It's up to each startup to seize this opportunity and become resourceful for themselves. At GINSERV, we can always help startups with resources to re-strategize and course correct. So please feel free to reach out to us at connect@ginserv.in. Another announcement is that, GINSERV is continuing to work in this direction, and we are putting together a new program for pivoting. There will be a kind of, 3-week program where it's kind of a exclusive lab where all the startups and entrepreneurs can participate. And then we will take them through a kind of a series of workshops. So please stay in touch and we will keep you posted on the launch soon. Thank you for having made this session very worthwhile effort with your participation and spending your valuable time with us here. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone. Bye. Bye, Sanjay. Bye.
Thank you all.
Bala, I have one small request. Can I come online? Manohar here.
Okay.
To everybody. You see, we are in one of our verticals is the education, higher education as well as primary education. We get requests to have mentors from the industry as such, including when it comes to skill development and entrepreneurship, they keep researching for resources. Can we ask GINSERV to provide some leads whom we can recommend and possibly put them on the board of studies or the counselors in the sense of business advisory, kind of thing. That's a good partnership that we are working out with the education institutions.
Oh, that's wonderful, Manor. So I think, well, let's do one thing. Let's chat on this separately, and
Sure.
we'll be able to help you definitely. Because we are already, there are few engineering institutes have come forward to seek our help, and we can provide you with certain frameworks and certain resources. We'll be very happy to kind of help you on this.
Sure. Thanks a lot. We'll work together.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.